Good afternoon, everyone. Shame is a tale as old as time. If we simplify the many definitions given in the literature through ages and their concepts, then we come to a conclusion where there is a personal feeling of shame because of our personal beliefs and morals. And also, there is feeling of shame because of the beliefs and concepts in the society where we live. So, we can feel shame or be shamed. Maybe we can think for a moment that these are the same thing, but believe me, they're not. Ask yourselves, how do you react to a man wearing high heels, a wig, makeup, or a dress even? It is a huge topic in our society, in our age especially. Look at Eurovision, for example. But can you remember all those paintings throughout the world's museums where you also see those men with wigs, high heels, dresses, and makeup? Of course you do. You visited some of them. And all those men were judges, prosecutors, kings, even military leaders. In our modern world, looking like that, they would have been shamed and even killed for that. Just read about all the cases of the drag queens, the trans community being shamed on a daily level about it. Being shamed is not always about our image. It is about our words, our actions, our way of life, our work. I've been publicly shamed and felt shame in public many times. It is part of my job as an on-air TV host, you know. I even once tried to explain to my viewers what those white lines behind the airplanes in the skies are, contrary to the chemtrails theory, by simplifying those white lines to the exhales we have during cold winters, when you take a breath in cold winter. And in my country, those exhales are called, there is a who outside. Have you ever done a who outside in a winter's cold air? You should try it sometimes. And then I've been publicly shamed for that. Online, on every social media out there, repeatedly. The first time, it wasn't easy, but I got over it. I left with everyone sharing it with me in my direct messages, like saying, oh, look, your who is famous. Oh, look, the airplane has a who. Ha, ha, ha. Wonderful. But that was more than 5 years ago. And then the shaming was recycled the year after, and the year after, and the year after, and lastly 2 months ago. Did it affect me? In a way, yes. Did I think about it? Yes. But did it shame me personally? No. I just became numb to the point of not reacting to it anymore in any way, even though its recycling still continues. You know, the new era changed the pace of shaming, reconstructed it. It is used as a weapon now, and a serious one. What is the explanation on our shaming behavior which is escalating into a war on flaws, differences, diversity, and anyone who can make a who in winter's air? It even has a gender component, and it is used mostly in what we call gender disinformation. This is when high-ranking women in politics are shamed because of their private lives, because of their looks, their makeup, their bodies, and not because of what they've been doing with their job or how they have been doing their job. Like for dancing at a party while being a prime minister, or for wearing dresses and being a minister of defense, or for not being very feminine because you wear pants instead of skirts as a candidate for president. And for all these, you can read all around the internet so many comments, insults, media coverage, which is doing direct harm by creating content out of it. And they are not only hurtful, but they are very, very dangerous nowadays. even to the point to which for some EU countries, for example, they have been working on it as a national security issue. Because if you ruin the image of a woman who is a Minister of Defense so much, then the citizens' trust in the ministry will decline, and by that, the national defense will be harmed. We started favoring ideologies over humans, forgetting that we all have flaws, which for us are an everyday thing, but to someone, those are weapons against our healthy existence. We know what being shamed by someone does to us, but what about feeling personal shame? Shame happened to us all in various incidents in our childhoods, for example, and those things will pass if they are allowed to. Like many children in the past, which were repeatedly shamed for wetting the bed, and as adults, the experience of shame stayed with them, because no one let their shame to pass. We should understand that shame, and bear this in mind, is a social construct. Yes, we do feel it as an emotion, or even experience it physically, but shame doesn't still have the same meaning in the era where so much of our privacy is public, as it was in the past. Times have changed. The digital era came. Everyone is out there now. We can recognize ourselves in other people. We can read someone else's bedwetting story as it was ours. And at the same time, there are so many differences, so much diversity, and many of us just don't know how to cope with it in full. And yet, nearly any one of us in the society sees the world from the perspective of its norm of normalcy. And if we don't see the things that conform to that, the likely result is shame. This also fits very well with the theory of projection, in which we are very good in seeing and pointing out in others the faults of which we are ashamed of in ourselves. And when we are relieved from the other people's shame, this is short-lived, just so you know. Like when you scroll through the news and see some headlines outlining shameful, disgraceful about someone, shock, unbelievable. You eat up those words and keep going on, forgetting about it quickly, even though they stay with you as a pattern to the future. And at the same time, in this era, we have the privilege of talking to people from all walks of life. We read and hear their stories, their struggles, also their triumphs. We have seen the power of the public sphere to connect people and to foster empathy and understanding. But we have also seen its dark side, the side that breeds hate, intolerance, cancel culture, and shame. We are being attacked for being different, for speaking the right things and for speaking against the wrongs, for being queer, for being open-minded, for our clothes, our bodies, for speaking against hate speech in the public sphere. Every one of us here has received some forms of nasty words, threats, labels, especially online. Countless insults, simply for not conforming to the normalcy. In all these cases, we do not talk about our shame usually, and we are instantly judged. We must understand that hiding is the essence of shame. One of the many great things about social media is that it gave a voice to the voiceless people, to the ones who never knew to whom they should talk to, and thus they asked for help online. And many of them have been shamed for asking those questions. Because of that, now we are on the edge of a world where the smartest way to survive online is to being voiceless again, because of being afraid of being shamed. But here's the thing. We should refuse to be silenced by shame, to hide because of it. Shame is a powerful weapon that is often used to silence and control marginalized communities. It tells us that we are not enough, that we don't belong, and that we should hide our true selves. But shame is also a tool for liberation. We need to redefine shame in the public sphere. We need to recognize that shame is not a personal failure, but it is a social construct. It is a tool that is used to reinforce dominant norms and values and to marginalize those who do not fit into those norms. We need to challenge the narratives of shame that are used to silence and oppress us, and to create new narratives and safe mechanisms for all. Redefining shame in the public sphere is a complex issue that requires multifaceted approach. We should raise awareness about the harmful effects of shaming behavior. This can be done through public campaigns, educational programs, and media coverage that highlights the negative impact of shaming on individuals and society as a whole. We need to encourage empathy among individuals. This can be achieved through programs that promote understanding and compassion towards those who are different from us. Encouraging people to put themselves in other people's shoes, which can help them to see the harm that shaming can cause and to act more compassionately towards each other. But there is also the need to foster a culture of respect in which people value and honor the dignity of others, even when they disagree with them. Fostering such a culture requires a determined effort on the part of individuals, communities, and institutions. This can be achieved by promoting civil discourse, encouraging open communication, and creating safe spaces where people can express themselves without fear of being shamed. Because civil discourse is the engagement in conversation intended to enhance understanding. Civil discourse exists as a function of freedom of speech. Start with the focus of the civil society sector in their programs. Change the educational materials. Talk to peers and colleagues at work if we have experience in coping with shame. Mentor them, and nothing is done without providing support. Because those who have experienced shaming behavior may need support to overcome its negative effects, it's important to create a supportive environment where people feel safe to seek help without fear of being judged or shamed further. This could include talking to a trusted friend or family member, also providing access to counseling, therapy, and other supported services, which can help individuals to heal and move forward. Even joining a support group will help, or you can set up your own movement or unofficial network, for example. As a response, this is an example from my country, North Macedonia, as a response to the sexist practice of shaming, the Women's Solidarity Network was formed there. It is an informal network of around 100 influential girls and women in my society, with the goal to address the verbal harassment that women politicians or intellectuals face when sharing their political stance. Under the hashtag We Stand By Her, the network supports women politicians and condemns the violence that they face across social media. They try to mess up the Facebook algorithms by publishing the same text of the post at the same time so it can pop up on everyone's news feeds. And the society in the new era can't be developed enough without holding people accountable for their shaming behavior, for which forms of social sanctions can be found. However, it's important for balanced accountability with compassion, recognizing that people who engage in shaming behavior may be acting out of ignorance or pain, or probably hiding their shame of the same position. It's important to address the behavior, but not to shame the person. It may be unpleasant for you when you see an unfair communication of shaming by someone, but speak up. By taking these steps, we can create a more compassionate and inclusive society where shaming behavior is no longer tolerated. We should remember that civil discourse is not just about being polite or avoiding conflict. It is about challenging power and privilege and creating space for marginalized voices to be heard. It is about recognizing that some opinions are not just different, but they are also very dangerous, and that we have a responsibility to stand up against them. It is about recognizing that empathy and understanding are not enough, and that we need to take action to create a more just and equitable world. We should also hold ourselves accountable as well. We need to take responsibility for our own behavior and recognize when we may have engaged in shaming behavior. We should apologize. This is why we need to redefine shame in the public sphere and to recognize that this is not just a personal thing, but moreover, a collective one. We are living in a new era, one that is characterized by rapid technological change, growing social and political divisions, an increasingly complex and interconnected world. That is why we must create a more compassionate and respectful society. We must hold governments and corporations accountable for the ways in which they pave a path for shaming culture to thrive, which hurts us all. Because patriarchy and mansplaining are deeply rooted in our views and actions towards what is normal. And this influences our behavior in shaming others. We have to stand by her, by him, by them, by anyone. At last, when it comes to behavior, we cannot spell your without our, because your words become our burden. We read them online, in the media, in the newspapers, and yes, we can delete them, hide them, ignore them, or even let them go. But they stay with us. And additionally, they push us to go more further, even though those words weigh heavily on our backs, like these ones. Thank you.